My Lucky Charm, written by Andrew Gignaud. This is a true story. Catherine O'Donnell was diagnosed with cancer in December 2019. She remained positive and fought hard. During this time, the COVID-19 lockdowns were imposed. Catherine was shielded by her immediate family. Over the next 2 years, she would tell stories of her early life and the impact that World War II had on her family. Throughout this story, you will hear Catherine's own recollections.
My Lucky Charm, Scene 7. This will hurt you. The war in Europe was going well, and there was a growing confidence across the nation that the end of this horrific madness was in sight. King's Cross Station was busy that evening. There was a lull in bombing, and some form of normality had returned to life in London. Betty is waiting on the arrival of the 710 from Glasgow. She's smartly dressed, not in the drab colours more commonly seen during these war years. She has long blonde hair, which hangs below her headscarf, blue eyes and bright red lipstick. Heads turn to look at her. She waits on the platform with some trepidation. She has something to tell her husband, but is not sure how best to tell him, and less sure on how he will react. Mick steps from the train and waves to her. He is still in his army uniform. He has travelled from Orkney, and his journey has taken him all day. A very long 24 hours. Despite this, he smiles broadly as he sees Betty and waves to attract her attention. He is carrying a large bouquet of flowers. His pace quickens as he walks up the platform. It has been a long time since he last saw her, and he can hardly contain his excitement. Betty sees Mick, but does not return his wave. She slowly starts to walk towards him. As Mick reaches her, he greets her with a kiss and gives her the flowers. She reluctantly accepts them. There is nothing passionate about their embrace. Mick senses there is something different, but says nothing. He can't put his finger on it.
Watch his train pull in, my head is in a spin. There's nothing more to do, but this will hurt you. Can't put it off no more. I've told myself before, a lie will make it worse. Living with this curse. Made me blue, 'cause this will hurt you. My mind is so mixed up. My heart says we've gotta break up. A lie will make it worse. Living with this curse. This isn't easy. Forgive me for what I'm about to say. I don't love you, don't hate me. We were far too young. I see the look in your eyes. Your pain is making me cry. There's nothing more to say. It hurts as I pull away. I listen to your plea. I hope you forgive me. A lie will make it worse. Living with this curse.
Hello. Everything okay?
She doesn't answer his question.
Hello, Mick. How are you? Did you bring these flowers all the way from Orkney?
I did that.
You can hear a smile in his voice. Almost a sense of achievement in delivering the flowers intact all the way from Kirkwall.
How are you?
I'm grand, aye. Tired, but pleased to be here. Oh, I missed you. Did you not bring the wee uns?
They're at my mum's. It was too late to bring them here. They should be in bed by now. You'll see them when you get back.
It was wartime, and my dad was 30 and she was 18. She didn't want to be involved with Mickey and I. I can remember her getting ready for work. She worked in Ford's, and I can smell all the perfume she used to wear all the time. She had long blonde hair. I can always remember that, brushing her long blonde hair.
Let's go for a drink before we head home. It's been 6 months since you were last here, and there is some news I need to tell you.
You make it sound serious. Okay, a drink sounds like a good idea. It's been a very long journey and I could do with a pint. Right, where shall we go?
The King's Arms is just around the corner. Let's go there.
The pub was busy, but they managed to find a quiet snug. Betty slid into the booth. There was a candle on the table that lit the area they sat at. Everything in the room appeared to flicker. Mick went to the bar. She looked over and saw a young man sitting at the table opposite and smiled. The man nodded and smiled back but said nothing. Mick returned with a pint for himself and a gin for Betty. He took a large sip of his beer.
My God, I needed that.
He held his glass up and looked at it, almost worshipping it. He took another sup and slowly put his glass down on the table. Betty was watching him all this time. He smiled and looked over at Betty.
Now then, what is so important that it couldn't wait till we get home?
Betty didn't immediately reply. Mick could sense her reluctance, almost a fear as she looked at him. He was bewildered and his mind was working hard to make sense of what was going on. What she said, however, floored him.
I'm leaving you, Mick. I'm so sorry, but I don't love you anymore. I don't want to hurt you, but I need to move on.
Mick looked at Betty in disbelief. He was studying her face, trying to make sense of what he had just heard. He couldn't make up his mind on whether she was joking.
What do you mean you're leaving me? What about all the things you said in the letters you wrote? What about the Waynes?
I'm so sorry, Mick. I think I was too young. Everything happened so quickly. We should not have married.
Should not have married? What do you mean? You had a choice. You were happy to get married at the time. Look, this is just stupid, right? Let's finish our drink and get out of here. Let's get home. It's been a long day and I want to see the wee uns. We can talk about this in the morning.
I'm not going home, Mick. I can't go home. I can't go with you.
What do you mean you're not going home? What about the Waynes?
Mum's looking after the children. Dad has thrown me out.
What?
I am pregnant, Mick.
The stranger now walks towards their table.
This is Sid. We need to go.
Betty gets up and follows Sid out of the pub. Mick watches them go without saying anything, too shocked to react to what's just happened. He sits quietly looking at his pint before asking the barman for a whiskey.
My dad was in the army, and he used to come down and leave. When he was demobbed, he didn't want to live in Romford anymore. He was working in Ford's, and then he found out that my mother was pregnant. So my dad, I was what age then? I was coming up in 7. And he didn't want to live down there anymore. And he wouldn't divorce her. So she changed her name and completely disowned Mickey and I. Didn't hear her, didn't know anything about her. My dad was anti-women after that.
This isn't